Hey everyone, how's it going? Today, we will be continuing the theme of Alex Ross by covering Kingdom Come. Now, before I begin, I want to make this very clear that this will contain some spoilers and this is not for kids. Because, yeah, this book here, it covers some pretty heavy subjects. So, let's get started.
Now, with the obvious theme of this video, Kingdom Come was created by Alex Ross, who, after finishing Marvels, a 1994 comic that dived into the history of the Marvel Universe by retelling the story of Marvels, issue number 1 in 1939, to the Marvel heroes of what was the present day at the time. In the eyes of average man photographer Phil Sheldon, the book was a massive success and was considered as Ross's masterpiece, but Ross wasn't done. He decided he wanted to do more. As Marvels was made to pay tribute to Marvel Comics, he wanted to do the same for the company's rival and other inspiration, DC Comics.
It's funny, right? I mean, this all started because, he did Marvels and wanted to do a story like Marvels for DC, and then later would then do a story like Kingdom Come for Marvel. Just kind of crazy there.
Anyway, Ross would pitch his story to DC that would pay tribute to their comics. But while Marvel's had a story starting in the Golden Age comics to, well, what was then the modern age, Ross would do something very differently for this one. It would still pay tribute to the generations, but instead, we would have it where the generations actually clash. And he wouldn't be doing this alone either. He would actually have the help of fellow comic book writer Mark Waid with the story. Now, speaking of the story, let's get into it. Our story begins with the death of Golden Age hero Wesley Dodds, aka the Sandman, a superhero who had the power to see into the past. But now in his old age, his powers were now beginning to show images of the future, and unlike the visions of the past, though could be sometimes misinterpreted, were more clear. But now, the visions were cloaked in kinda not so subtle symbolism. Wesley, in his last moments of life, tells his friend Pastor Norman McKay of his visions, as he puts it, legions of the mighty drowning in a lake of fire. Now, because of Wesley's condition, Norman doesn't believe that Wesley's dreams were true. But before Wesley dies, passes his powers to Norman, so now he too begins to see the visions. Norman at first tries to brush them off, thinking that it was probably stress. Stress from what, you may ask? Well, of superheroes, of course, or at least what passes for superheroes these days, since this generation are less focused on helping people and more focused on fighting to be the best.
And the media is trying to play it off that there are like these big epic battles in the cosmic scale, but in reality they're just turf wars.
Hell, Norman is more of a superhero since he actually tries to help people who are stuck in the crossfire. It gets really intense and only ends because something worse is happening. And what would that be? Well, a giant explosion so massive it destroyed all of Kansas and left parts of the several other states poisoned with radiation, and was caused by a team of superheroes who were quote-unquote fighting Superman villain Parasite, who tore one of their members, this universe's Captain Atom, apart, which caused the explosion. We later find out that this could have been prevented since the Parasite was actually willing to surrender, but he's ignored by the team's leader and the new Man of Tomorrow, Magog, while Superman has disappeared 10 years prior. Norman is shaken up by the events along with the rest of the world, beginning to believe the visions are in fact true, and is quickly confirmed by the arrival of the Spectre, who has gone through many titles, but one of the most popular ones being the Avenging Wrath of God.
So yeah, he's definitely here to spread some good news.
The Spectre was hoping to find Wesley Dodds, but was too late and now needs Norman's help. Though the Spectre once passed judgment more swiftly, things have changed. The line is more blurred, and as he puts it, Armageddon is fast approaching, and Norman is needed to help him figure out who is to be punished for it. Norman isn't sure he's going to be able to help, but when talking to someone like the Spectre, it's best to just do what he says, and they begin their journey. Their first location, the Fortress of Solitude, home of Superman, though now he just goes by Cal. The Spectre and Norman are going by A Christmas Carol rules, so no one can see or hear them while they observe this retired Superman. Why is he retired? Because 10 years ago, the Joker came to the Daily Planet and killed everyone inside, including Lois Lane. Though angry, both Superman and Batman were dedicated to bringing him to justice by the book, but Magog had other plans. He essentially did a public execution, and though Superman and the other heroes wanted to bring Magog to justice, no one would do anything. They approved of what he did. This would shake Superman to his core, and believe that no one wanted him. Because the sad truth was, yeah, people wanted a hero that would be more willing to kill. They no longer wanted a Golden Age hero who had values, who wanted to do right, inspire, and protect. After that, he just flew away to the world. Clark Kent was dead, and Superman was no more. Now, there was just an alien in an artificial farm, just doing menial tasks, probably until the end of his days. At least until Diana showed up and tells him what happens. And though it takes him time, he eventually decides that he couldn't stand it anymore, puts on the cape again, and becomes Superman once more. He even reforms the Justice League, with members comprised of the Flash, the Wally West Flash to be more precise, who has become one with the Speed Force and is truly the fastest man alive, Alan Scott, the Green Lantern, the Ray, Power Girl, now going by Power Woman, Dick Grayson, who unlike the main DC universe does not go by Nightwing, but instead Red Robin, please no frickin' restaurant jokes, I'm so tired of those, and Hawk.
Oh, come on!
Anthropomorphic Hawkman, with their numbers growing. And while everyone else seems to be happy to see them again after dealing with the hell that have been the current line of heroes, Norman is then reminded of his visions. And after learning that Lex Luthor and several other villains have actually puppeteered some of these horrible events, along with his ward, Billy Batson, yes, that Billy Batson, Captain Marvel, or at least, the hero formerly known as Captain Marvel, because, screw everything, I guess, Norman begins to wonder, can Armageddon be prevented, or is it too late? As usual, you're gonna have to see for yourself. Now, just like Earth X, I love this story. Though I will admit, I think I prefer this over Earth X. I just felt like the story was a little bit more streamlined, more compelling, and doing an amazing job at both deconstructing the ideals of the generations, while also balancing its secondary theme, that being faith. As for any issues I had with it, I'd have to say I feel like some of the heroes could have gotten more play. Like, for example, Hawkman is introduced in a way that makes you think that he's going to play a really big part in the story, or at least get a moment to shine, like Flash, Green Lantern, or even Blue Beetle. But nope, he's just in the background.
Again, I think it's pretty funny. I thought Earth X had maybe too much detail into it, while in here, I feel like it needed a little bit more detail. So, yeah, put these together and maybe be properly balanced.
Let's get into the characters, starting with Superman. As mentioned, this is a version of Superman whose faith in humanity has been shaken by its generation, to the point where he no longer even goes by the name given to his human parents. This is a version that lets the super be more important than the man, which, though doesn't make him go all injustice levels of dangerous, does lead him to make some very questionable choices, showing that though his intentions are good, does it truly mean his way is better? Then we got Wonder Woman, who though has the same goals as Kal, isn't as unsure of their actions. She even convinces the team to build a frickin' gulag. Much like Superman, Diana has lost a lot, even banished from her home of Themyscira, believing that she's failed as an ambassador. This does lead to a romance between the two, and luckily this works out. Many writers have tried doing the Wonder Woman Superman story, but usually it comes off as pretty forced. But for this story, it feels pretty natural. Next up, we got Batman. Yeah, I didn't really talk about him too much when it came to the story, mostly because if I said what his deal is, it could have potentially spoiled a lot. All I'll say here is that though he says he doesn't like them, he's a wild card in this story. You're not entirely sure on what he's gonna do, but whatever it is, he's prepared for it. He's also the only one who still calls Superman Clark, which I'm pretty sure you can guess how he sees his old friend. Next we have Lex and Captain Marvel. Lex in here is pretty much a combination of his Golden Age and Modern Age counterparts, being both a crazy mad scientist and a wicked businessman slash super genius, creating a new version of the secret society known as the Mankind Liberation Front, while also corrupting Billy Batson, who, after the rise of the new generation, also retired, but was then found by Luthor, who tormented him with horrible experiments and fully convinced him that superhumans were monsters, and when the time was right, it'd be up to him to snuff them all out. It's truly tragic to see someone like Billy Batson, someone who is seen to be one of the greatest champions of the DC universe, go through such one hell of a dark path. and seeing him being so loyal to Lex Luthor, just sad. This is a version of Lex Luthor who is just probably the most twisted version, at least to me I find him the most twisted version. Since, keep in mind, Billy Batson, though now a grown man, was a child when he found him. He took a kid, a 10-year-old kid, and just tore his mind apart so he could reassemble it to what he thinks is right. That there is truly evil. Now for the new Man of Tomorrow, Magog. Like Batman, Magog's a character I don't want to spoil too much, but I will say his name does fit in a very ironic sense. It comes from the story of Gog and Magog, which though has taken many interpretations, I think knowing Ross's background, it's safe to say that the version he's going for is the one in the New Testament. And once again, I don't want to spoil too much about Magog's character, but I want you to keep this in mind. This is a guy who is known as the new Man of Tomorrow. He is the representation of this new generation. But when I was talking about the story, did you not notice that I didn't talk about Magog after Kansas? Next we have the Spectre and Norman McKay. For our narrators, we have an angel of punishment who doesn't actually really know who to punish, and a pastor who has pretty much lost his faith. Not in whether or not there's a god, but why would a god do such a thing? Once again, this sticks to the secondary theme, being faith. These two are the framing device, very similar to Machine Man and the Watcher in Earth X, but here we truly have just a common man walking with gods, who's trying to make sense in the logic of the superhero community, which makes him more relatable, honestly. As for the art, what can I say that I didn't say on Earth X's covers? It's gorgeous. Ross was able to capture the beauty of the golden age of DC without completely romanticizing it.
Also, much like many artists, he actually gets models for his characters. In fact, Norm McKay is based off his father, Pastor Clark Ross.
In the end, I highly recommend reading Kingdom Come. It's grand, it's epic, and the themes are great.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And for the next review, we'll be passing the theme of Alex Ross to the theme of Elseworlds.